Next on Currents News, a big summit on Catholic education, Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio and top school leaders highlighting for all the great value of faith in the classroom. The roaring sounds of disaster as wildfires and winds rip through California, forcing people to flee for their lives.
Hundreds of students gathered in this Queens parish, all with one goal in mind: to strengthen their relationship with God. I'm Emily Druby, and that is ahead.
Plus, the flight of Christians from the Middle East could soon get a lot worse. We have exclusive coverage. The news starts right now.
They expected something different, and they find it in Catholic schools.
That's what parents discover when they give their children the gift of a Catholic education. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is trumpeting the excellence of Catholic education today and into the future, leading a major summit bringing together top education leaders and the students they serve. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
Young musicians showing off their talents, skills made possible because of a Catholic education. The performance taking place as Bishop DiMarzio convenes a major summit to highlight the value of Catholic schools.
It shows that we're alive and we're working, and it's working very well. We're raising money from other people that are supporting.
Through that support and the scholarships that are created from it, the building blocks for the future are laid, ensuring a great classroom experience endures.
We're giving them heart, mind, soul education. It's all in one. We meet the individual needs of all the children, and we work together to really make sure that they have all those components in their lives.
Tom Chadzuko is the superintendent of schools in the Brooklyn Diocese, and he appreciates the hard work of so many to help the children, especially futures in education. Altogether, over $7 million in scholarships are handed out to 4,500 students each year. 31% of the families helped by futures live at or below the poverty line. The average household income for families is $30,000. Darla Ramfo is another person making a difference for the kids, providing tuition help through her group, the Children's Scholarship Fund. She speaks with many parents who are hoping for more than what's offered in New York City schools.
We hear it from parents that come to us for scholarships. They're kind of horrified by what's going on in our public schools, and they really are looking for something different. They expected something different, and they find it in Catholic schools.
Shmiley Ulysses is in the 8th grade at St. Joachim Ann Catholic Academy in Queens. For her, academics are important, but so is her faith.
My Catholic education, I want to help others know the true meaning of what it means to spread the good news and how to be a good Catholic, and knowing that God will always be by your side.
Learning her faith while learning her lessons is just one example of why a Catholic education equals excellence. In Douglaston, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Now for news about pro-life medical professionals across the nation. A federal judge is protecting their conscious rights. Under a new ruling, they can't be forced to perform abortions or gender transition procedures. The court is tossing out an Obama administration requirement that had covered every doctor in the country. In his decision, Judge Reed O'Connor of Texas wrote that doctors can't do their jobs if government bureaucrats force them to violate their moral beliefs. And in another Texas legal battle, Jeffrey Younger went to court to stop his son James from undergoing gender transition treatment. He wanted sole custody of the child, but a jury ruled against him. Younger's divorced wife is pushing for James to begin hormone replacement therapy, saying he identifies as a girl. The father argued James is a boy and the treatments would be medically harmful to him. The contentious issue of gender theory is at the center of recent church teachings. The Vatican this summer issued a landmark document that emphasized the equal dignity of men and women as created by God. The U.S. Bishops' Conference applauded the report as a solid framework for those involved in Catholic education. Today in the Brooklyn Diocese, a prayer rally is held for students. The goal to make faith come alive every day for young people at a time of growing secularism. Currents News' Emily Druby reports.
Buses carrying hundreds of kids to Holy Family Church in Fresh Meadows, Queens. Catholic middle school students from all over the diocese pouring inside the church for a prayer rally. A special afternoon spent building their relationship with God.
Events like this help to strengthen their faith because it takes Jesus out of a textbook and makes it a real person, somebody that they can have a relationship with.
The more of these things that we can do that help the church come alive in a real and meaningful way to them, the better off our churches and the lives of these young people will be.
Event leaders Paul Morisi and David James explaining they specially target the youth through worship. A faith discussion by youth minister Lauren Gentry, and adoration. Inspiring the youth to strengthen their relationship with God is so important in this day and age.
Studies are showing that people are leaving the church at younger ages, so gatherings like this help to mold young people into good Catholics.
Especially for middle school students, Morisi says that's around the age kids begin questioning their faith. Holy Family's youth minister, Rachel Burgos, knows just how important events like this can be for faith formation.
I used to go to these types of events and they really meant a lot to me. It helped me grow deeper in my relationship with God to go to these events.
That deep relationship inspiring her to become a youth minister, helping others grow closer to God, like the students at the rally.
God's kind of like a close friend. Being a Catholic means a lot because God, He's always with us.
Students also practicing the Catholic value of loving thy neighbor, bringing donations for a homeless outreach program.
The message is very simple, that they're made to be loved by God and their vocation is to love others in that same way.
Strengthening their relationship with God into something that will withstand the test of time. In Fresh Meadows, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Turning to the Middle East and new warnings about the future of Christianity there. A new report produced by the pontifical charity Aid to the Church in Need is sounding an alarm that the faith could vanish in places like Syria and Iraq. They're worried about the resurgence of ISIS amid the changing situation in Syria, calling the church in that region fragile. The report says if the Islamists mount new attacks, Christians could disappear. For more on the dangers facing Christianity in the region, the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, is standing by in St. Peter's Square. Christopher, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you, Tamara.
Christopher, this new report details the dramatic decline of Christians, as many as 9 in 10 gone from Iraq and 2/3 from Syria, all within a generation. Can you give us a bit of an overview?
Sure, Tamara. I mean, what this report lays out, and tragic to tell, is the fact that in Iraq specifically, the Christian community there has gone from about 300,000 to, in just a few years' time, by some counts, 120,000. Those numbers, in terms of percentages, are also reflected in Syria. So we've seen an absolute, dramatic, shocking decline, and not much international attention to this issue, which is why this report is trying to elevate it.
Well, so beyond persecution at the hands of ISIS, what else seems to be crippling the Christian communities in the region?
That was one of the things I found interesting about this report, is they said, yes, there's persecution, which we've been chronicling for a few years, but we've done these site visits in recent years that have shown beyond persecution, these communities are crippled by poverty. So even though there's been sort of a respite in terms of direct persecution, they're unable to rebuild, which isn't really giving the communities there a hope for the future, which is its own form of being handicapped.
Well, so why should the Christian community in the United States or anywhere else care about this crisis?
Well, simply put, the Christians in this region come from the birthplace of Christianity, and if we lose that, quite frankly, we've lost a huge part of our history and heritage that is, in some respects, essential for keeping the faith alive.
Christopher White, the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, thank you for being with us today from St. Peter's Square.
Thank you, Tamara.
And there's further worry tonight about the future of Iraq. The Chaldean Catholic Church is concerned about violent anti-government protests. So far, nearly 150 people have died and more demonstrations are planned for tomorrow. The church says it is praying for the people who are protesting against government corruption. The Pope's historic summit on the Amazon is in the home stretch. Saturday night, the Synod Fathers will vote on the recommendations that they'll be sending to the Holy Father for his approval. An important one involves the Mass and how Indigenous people in the rainforest could celebrate it. It's been a major topic throughout the summit. Melissa Butts is standing by in St. Peter's Square with the latest. Melissa?
Exactly, Tamara. Well, since the beginning of October, throughout the entire Synod, one topic has come up daily, that of the Amazonian right. And now, in the final week, as the final document's being drafted, both the bishops and the Indigenous people are working together to try to make this a reality.
The Amazonian rite is a liturgical possibility Synod Fathers will likely implement for the Indigenous in the area at the end of the Synod. It will fuse local symbols and traditions customary for the Amazon natives in the celebration of the liturgy, an idea rooted in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This main point of discussion in the Synod Hall was brought into the press briefing. The bishops from the Amazon region feel a real need to be able to communicate with the language, communicate with symbols, and communicate also with local rituals. So this proposal doesn't surprise me. Like all the churches that are part of the Christian faith, including the churches in Latin America, we need to be able to express our faith in our own schemes. Yet two leaders from the Amazon ethnic groups who are representatives at the Synod say this idea is nothing new. We already celebrate our own spirituality and live out our traditions, cultures, and values. We live starting with evangelization, and we're the result of evangelization. From here, I see you restless. Perhaps you don't understand what the Amazon really needs. We have our own cosmology and way to see the world, which brings us closer to God and nature. These ethnic leaders say they're not asking for a new church nor a different religion. They're desiring that harmony with nature, people, and God be incorporated into their spiritual life in a way that addresses the multi-ethnic and linguistic reality present in the Amazon basin.
The representatives of the ethnic groups essentially said that to them an Amazonian rite would just have Christ as the center of the faith, just like every other Christian faith on the planet. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you, Tamra.
Melissa, if the Amazonian rite is approved, then what happens next?
Well, essentially, if it's approved, some of the Synod Fathers have said that it will not be included necessarily in the final document. There's a series of steps and a lot of discussion and a lot of prayer that will have to take place. So they said that if it's approved, if they say in the final document that we want the Amazonian rite, it will not happen this October, November, or maybe even December. It would probably be a thing in the future after much prayer and discussion that they can see how it's going to work and how the Indigenous can all be involved in that. Tamra?
Okay, thank you. Melissa Butts reporting from St. Peter's Square.
Thank you.
For continuing coverage of the Synod that you won't find anywhere else, you can count on Currents News and the tablet. Be with us every night at 7 p.m. on Net TV and check in at thetablet.org. Also, the latest Synod developments will be posted on our Facebook and Twitter sites. There's a lot more ahead on this edition of Currents News. Winds and fires are threatening people and homes. We'll have the latest update from the battle to contain the flames. The Little Sisters of the Poor need help, and they're looking to Washington. Researchers are calling it historic, a new drug for Alzheimer's. We'll have the important details. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Now for breaking news about the drive to honor Mother Cabrini. The creation of a statue dedicated to the saint will be overseen by a new commission. Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing the members late today. Heading the list is Bishop DiMarzio, along with 18 other high-profile leaders. The governor is also pledging up to $750,000 for the project. The commission will recommend the design and location of the new memorial. Bishop DiMarzio has been at the forefront of the campaign to recognize the patroness of immigrants after City Hall snubbed her. Wildfires and whipping winds are a bad combination tonight in California. Hundreds of people are on the run. Millions more are being warned to stay alert. Fires are burning in both northern and southern California. Hundreds of people have been told to evacuate their homes, and California utilities are turning off power to some areas again. More than 25 million people are under red flag warnings today across the state. Tonight, the Little Sisters of the Poor are hoping the U.S. Supreme Court will help them. They want the justices to step in after the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco ruled that the nuns are not exempt from the Obamacare contraception mandate. The Supreme Court already decided in favor of the Little Sisters, but ordered a workaround to be created. Since then, the Trump administration put in place a new religious exemption rule, but that sparked a flurry of lawsuits, leading to the latest decision against the Little Sisters. There's excitement tonight over research into managing Alzheimer's disease. A drug that's being called historic is a big step closer to winning federal approval. Steve Wolford reports on what a doctor is saying about the potential breakthrough.
Overnight, this drug went from off the shelf done to now being the potential next drug approved.
Dr. Marwan Sabah, director of the Cleveland Clinic Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health, says what a difference a little extra data makes. He says during the initial analysis of aducanumab's effects, it didn't show enough promise to pursue it. But a deeper dive into the data from the test group at the Ruvo Center showed it clearly removed plaque or amyloids from the brains of Alzheimer's patients.
These are before, these are after, okay? This is the placebo group. Red is all the amyloid in the brain. This is the highest dose. This is the before and after. This is a year later. This is a brain full of amyloid, all the red. And this is a brain full of is empty of amyloid after a year.
Now, based on its ability to slow down the ravaging effects of Alzheimer's, some are calling aducanumab a history-making drug. Its maker, Biogen, is set to take it to the FDA for approval in a few months, meaning it could be on the market as early as a year from now. Dr. Sabah makes it clear this is not an Alzheimer's cure, but instead management.
And it's important because if we could avoid all those complications because they're staying well or just mildly impaired and not getting worse, the downstream benefits are gigantic.
That includes the benefits for families of patients who might never need to put a loved one in a nursing home.
Best case scenario is that they have mild Alzheimer dementia. We refill their meds every 6 months, and 7 years later, they're still very mild or even slightly better, and they're not worse. They're still in their home. They're still somewhat semi-independent.
That was Steve Wolford reporting. Dr. Sabah is issuing one warning about the drug. It might not be cheap, and he's unsure if insurance will cover it. Today, lawmakers said goodbye to Elijah Cummings, a Christian congressman and civil rights pioneer. The Maryland representative making history, becoming the first African-American elected official to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. The memorial service featured officials from both sides of the political aisle. The lawmaker's funeral will be held tomorrow at the Baptist Church in Baltimore, where Cummings worshiped. Still to come on Currents News. The baby is being called a miracle thanks to a saint. The story is an exclusive in the tablet. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez is moments away. An American hero had been missing since World War II. Now he's been found. We'll be right back. You'll want to pick up this week's tablet for stories you won't find anywhere else. A saint's intercession and how a miracle child was born. A young man is a lifeline for a struggling country. And a look on how the Catholic Church is a lot like America's favorite pastime. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez joins us now to talk about these amazing stories. Jorge, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Tamara.
All right, let's start with what is on your front page. A family was having a hard time conceiving, then they said a saint intervened. Tell us about it.
Well, in our diocese, there is a lot of devotees of Saint Gerard Majella, which is an Italian saint who is the patron of expecting women. But there is a tradition to go to the Mass of Saint Jerome Magella and get a relic from him and bring it home for the couples who are struggling to conceive. And this is exactly the story. A couple, they are 40-something, both of them, and for years they were struggling to conceive. Now they have 2 beautiful babies. You have to read the story. It is beautiful, really.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, let's turn to another amazing story about a Queens Boy Scout making a difference in another country. Give us some insight on that.
This one is really an inspiring story. This is a kid who is a senior in high school, in a Catholic high school. He went to visit the Dominican Republic. He met Haitian people. He started to find out about all the struggles that they have in Haiti. So this summer he decided to do something for Haiti, and he spent the whole summer collecting school supplies for Haiti. Now he's sending the school supplies. You have to read that story too.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about your column. It's the World Series this week, and you're making an interesting connection between the church and baseball. Tell me.
Yes, well, since I was a kid, I was reading the Bible and watching baseball with my grandfather, and I started discovering secret connections between the two of them. And that's what I try to explain to our reader, how baseball can make you a good Catholic. And, this is perfect for now because we are in the middle of the World Series.
Well, give us one comparison.
Well, one comparison, for example, in baseball, you are always comparing against the people who are in front of you and the whole history. And that's, for me, is like the communion of saints in the church. We are part of the same community, the living Catholics and the saints that are already in heaven. That is the comparison between baseball and Catholicism for you.
That's a great sneak peek at this week's Tablet. Jorge Dominguez, editor-in-chief of the Tablet, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The Tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by subscribing to the Tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You'll save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And please check out one of the latest features in the Tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptism, First Communion, confirmation, and marriage. For more information and to submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Finally tonight, a family is getting closure nearly 75 years after a World War II hero went missing. The body of Private First Class Joseph Bichetti was finally identified through DNA and is coming home to be laid to rest. Bichetti enlisted as a Marine in 1942. He made the ultimate sacrifice during the Battle of Tarawa, but his body was never identified. Now, thanks to DNA from his younger brother, his younger sister Mary is saying his spirit will finally be laid to rest.
I feel it's a closure now after he's buried and everything. I feel it's all completed.
Private Bichetti's funeral, which will be open to the public, will be in Pennsylvania on November 30th. We thank him for his service to our country, and may God bless his family. What a touching story.
It is indeed.
That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.